Join with computer audio. Yeti. Okay. Here we go. What is going on, good folks? Are we in the holiday spirit? You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout. I'm telling you why. Deadpool or RPD is coming to a AirPods near you or whatever you use to listen. Happy holidays, folks. Thank you for listening to this show for the last 15 weeks. It means a lot. I'm really excited about the new direction. We're actually recording, well, it's 2 days before Christmas. It's the 23rd, and this will be the first drop of the new year, 2021. How about that? What a crazy year it's been. But I'm really excited about this one. I've known this guy for a couple years. His name is Justin Legacy Bishop. He is a manager and tour manager in the music industry. He works with currently and has worked with on tour as his tour manager. Marc E, Bassy, really talented artist. If you don't know, you've definitely heard one of his songs. And he also works with another artist based out of Chicago named Kovu. I think I'm saying that right. If you're listening and I'm sorry, man. Kovu, yeah, that's his other guy, and he just has his hands full, and I just appreciate him a lot for taking the time to, especially close to the holidays, to come on the show and talk for a bit. So he's really cool for doing that. Overall, just a really great guy, and I'm thankful, and grateful for him as a friend and for coming and taking a chance on my show and being vulnerable. And he just texted me. We're about to bring him on in here. Let's see. How do we participants invite, copy invitation? All right. He's going to be coming on very shortly here. But until then, we're going to sip this tea and drink some water. Oh, shoot. Should be coming on very, very shortly, folks. But yeah, this has been really cool. I'm really excited about the guests that are coming on board in the future. And, I've been overwhelmed for a time. It's like, oh, do I, because like Justin is obviously someone I respect and admire a lot. So it's like, when's the right time to ask him to come on the show, or like other people like that. And it's just like, one of my goals is to really just hammer down and just do it. So there is no right time. You got to do it. So, yeah. Technical difficulties, perhaps. Trent, you're going to have fun with this one, man. I wish this was like Michael Rosenbaum's show in a sense, where like he's sitting with his editor and they're just chatting, and then they call whoever it is, and then they come on. Can't believe it's already Christmas. New year next year. How about that? I thought I was going to be sly like a fox, and just, the invite would go through and then it would happen right away. And then, he'd be like, well, and then be like, here we go. Here's my guest, Justin Bishop. And then boom. But what's new in my life? I mean, Christmas, the holidays, it's family time. But of course, I got to get a podcast in because I'm really excited for Wonder Woman 1984. And you may be wondering, all right, screw this football, man. This thing is, or we'll put it in the gauntlet. How about that? Put that front and center. We'll switch. Why didn't I think of that the first time? Yeah, look at me. We're making adjustments here on the spot. Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da. What if we're just waiting here for 30 minutes? Oh, here we go. And we're about to admit Justin onto the show. What's going on, man? Can you hear me? Can I hear you? Oh, there we go. Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate you. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, of course, my guy.
Yeah. Happy holidays, by the way. Crazy that Christmas is in 2 days, right?
Bro, it's insane. It's crazy to even think about right now.
Yeah, I know. But hey, I mean, good to spend the quality time. It's been a minute though. How have you been? How's life?
Life is good, man. Just taking every day one step at a time. Just trying to figure out how to navigate in this new way of life. So, but it's been good. It's been a very humbling period of time, but I've also been able to grow a lot too as well. So can't be mad at it.
Hey, I love to hear it. I mean, as tragic, I mean, I hope you and your family and friends, been able to stay healthy and all that. But it's as tragic as this year has been. I think it's been a huge step forward for a lot of people, just because yourself included, and
Yep.
Myself, we're able to kind of step back and be like, okay, how can I improve? Upon things that I kind of weren't really thinking about, but now I have time to do. So I'm really happy to hear that, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that was kind of the approach. Once we went into quarantine and we had to lock down, the first thought in my mind was well, how can I be useful in this time? And I think a lot of people, either went two directions. It was okay, let me focus on things, you kind of neglect in the everyday life because life moves so fast. And let me really focus on those type of things. Or people just took it for what it was and didn't really do anything. And it was I'll take the stimulus check and just go blow it on something. And but I think for me, it was the latter of that. It was let me get really dived into networking and building my network and learning a new skill and figuring out a way how can I help my clients in a way that's different than what they're used to. So
I love that. That's such a fresh perspective because, I mean, even some of the previous guests I've had on the show, they'll talk to, I mean, I'm definitely one of them. At first I was kind of down, and I was really curious to hear your perspective just because I know you've done work on the touring side in the music industry, and obviously that's taken it. I mean, it's not even a thing anymore. So
yeah.
I'm really happy to hear you're well,
Yeah, man. It honestly, the first few, weeks, maybe even that first month of just being at home was it was difficult. You didn't really know how long it was going to last. You didn't really know what to do. And for me, we were on tour when all of this stuff was
Oh, no way.
announced and rolling out. So, we were like heading towards the West Coast in that moment, and we were like, oh man, this COVID thing is really happening. And then I think when it was like the NBA was like, yeah, we're gonna not have games, we were like, oh, so this is like real. Um, and then, come to find out later down the line, we tried to push it as long as we could, and we ended up having to cancel some shows. But, when you are touring for a while, you do naturally just have that like end of tour depression, because you just want to be back on the road, and you're experiencing some things that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to experience, and you get to see the world. Like for me, I'm young, so uh, a lot of this time is me soaking in, and seeing that there's more to life out there. And it was difficult at first. I can't even lie about that. But it, you can't stay in the slumps too long.
No, I mean, even with post-tour depression, I was curious to hear your perspective on that, just because, I mean, you experience the highs of the highs, and then it's kind of the lows of the lows, and it's like you kind of got to, it's like, oh, I'm not on the go, and I'm not
Yeah,
experiencing like this range of emotion and just like feeling, on a
yeah,
nightly basis. But that's crazy, man. I mean, I was like 2 shows in on a tour, and then I think we're at like the House of Blues, and it was like the TV was like, yeah, Rudy Gobert tested positive, and then the whole NBA, like kind of what you said, and it was like,
yep.
oh shit, and it's just like, I gotta get, I was washing my hands like every 30 minutes, and then
Yeah,
the
no,
whole
it's so strange, because even then I think we had done a Seattle show, and it was like, as we were doing load in and sound check, we were like, I'm talking to the promoter, and they're like, yeah, this is gonna be our last show. And we're like, hold on, for real? Like, are you
oh man,
serious? And after that, it was like, okay, so this thing's actually real. This is happening here. Before it was just like, oh, this thing's happening in China right now. We don't really know what's going on. And then now that it was actually in the States, our last show was in Santa Cruz, and we were like plotting for hours, like, how do we do meet and greets? Like, how, like, we can't, we have to obviously make sure our client is safe, but we also want to make sure the fans are safe as well. And we were like, well, can we go buy hand sanitizer? We were literally going to every CVS, every Walgreens, trying to find hand sanitizer, and there wasn't. And we were just like, we had this small little bottle that we were just holding on to on the bus. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, everybody, but we have to have this for meet and greets, because it was what it was. But man, it was an interesting time, and I think for a lot of people that live through this, it's going to be similar to 9/11. It's going to be like, where were you when this happened? So it's gonna be an interesting thing for years to come.
absolutely. We're good. Kind of the perspective I've taken, just like we're gonna remember this year for the rest of our lives. Whether what lies ahead, after this, and it's like, damn, that was a rough year, and like we recovered. I mean, I have faith. Yes, it's in our it's in our human nature. We kind of overcome adversity, and come together and figure it out. But yeah, it's very strange times. But I think hopefully, we're on we're like over I don't even know how to call it. We're on the good side of things, like
Yeah,
we're
we're on the up and up right now.
so
Hopefully,
things are,
hopefully we're on the right track.
but um yeah, man, well, this is some stuff that I don't even really know. Like I kind of want to get into just like kind of your whole story though, just like from your early life kind of to where you are today. So where you, and you're from Chicago, right? Like what was it like kind of growing up? Were you
So I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, which is a north suburb of Chicago. I didn't want to be that guy and be like, yeah, I'm from Chicago, because everybody would kill me for that.
right?
Because it's like, you're not
No,
from
no, you're
you're
not
not from Chicago, you're from the suburbs. But no, I mean, life growing up, man, I played sports most of my life. I was a 3-sport athlete until like junior year of high school, where I kind of focused more so on football and track. But I had always had this love for music. I was, I tried the music thing. I was like, yeah, I want to be a rapper. And I performed, and I was doing club appearances like with, you know, some dudes that were older than me that I was on records with. And it was tight. But then like as life kind of progressed, I found my way like torn between sports and music, because obviously sports was going to be my ticket to getting a scholarship. And, you know, in my eyes, it was my ticket out. Not that I had a bad life or anything, but it was like, oh, I can be put on, I can go to the league. And music was just like an activity at that point in time. I couldn't fathom the idea of like making it a career. And I think the moment when I felt like it could be a career was when I got to college. So I went to college in Rock Island, Illinois. You know, played football there for all 4 years. But, you know, as an athlete, you know, that kind of comes your life on that level. You know, I
Absolutely.
played D3. I didn't really, you know, I had tore my knee up in high school. So, you know, a lot of those looks kind of went away. But even then on that level, it becomes your life. You go to football practice after class, or you got practice in the morning, weightlifting in the morning. So it's a full-time thing. But because of that, you know, our off season was very light. You know, it wasn't like we had to stay in the gym. Like we had like workouts twice a week or something like that until we got closer to spring ball. But I was bored. I was bored stiffless. Like I hung out with my guys. We played video games. We went out on the weekends, but like outside of class, it was just like, man, there's nothing to do but sit in the library and just BS all day. And I think it was like one night we just got like real hammered in the dorms. It was wintertime, snow, you're not going anywhere. And we were just like, man, like what if we did like a festival, and on campus there were a lot of trees. So we were like, man, what if we cut these trees down? We had this festival, like it'll be so tight. And in high school, I used to be the guy in my off seasons, you know, in between all the sports, I would throw parties. And so I was like, man, actually, this is it's probably not that far fetched. Like, I think this idea we can run with. And so I ended up finding a dude that was on the team. He worked in the Office of Student Life that handled all the events. And I went to him. I'm like, hey, we got this idea of like having a music festival. Do you think it's like crazy? He's like, man, let's just put it on a piece of paper. And so we were in the library, wrote up, you know, we searched every music festival possible, wrote up like a one sheet. And that day, the principal, not the principal, oh my gosh, the president, the president of the school had his open office hours. And we were just like, oh man, let's just print this out and just go for it. And we walked in and we were like, hey, we have this idea. We don't really know where to take it. And behold, the school had this event back in the 60s or something similar, where it was like family friends day or something like that. And they involved the community, and they had music, they had food, they had activities. And we were like, yeah, that's what we want to do. But we want to have the biggest artists in the world show up here. And he kind of directed us in the right direction. And lo and behold, a year later, we were able to host our first festival. And I think that was like the moment where it was like, maybe sports is just something for me to get by, and it kind of help my, you know, my scholarship and everything. But like I used everything I learned in my business courses to help me put on this festival, and built a ton of relationships there. Our first year we had Vic Mensa. Second year we had Go Link and Smino. Third year, which was our final year because we started our sophomore year, was Marc E, Bassy. And then, you know, the rest was
That's
history.
okay. That makes so much sense, and that's kind of probably how you guys linked up. And
Mm-hmm.
right, okay, that was a question I was
Yeah.
definitely going to ask. So that's so cool, though, how you started that up, just like an idea. Like, you know, you guys were that. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
those are the best.
Completely obliterated too.
Yeah,
Like
you
just
got,
like if you were in that room that day, you would probably thought we were crazy for even thinking of that idea. But it was just for us, it was it was kind of just looking around and analyzing and being like, hey, students don't really like vibe with the events that are going on unless there's drinking involved. But we were like, well, they have music events, no one shows up. And our leverage was to go to the school and say, hey, you're wasting your money. You're putting your money into acts that 5 students show up to. Let's kind of revise that a little bit. And regardless if it meant taking that away, it was like we can guarantee you. And I think we walked in there like so confident and making like big promises that we had no idea we could even achieve, and just saying like, I guarantee you, give us some time and we'll make it work. And so the event was called Slough Fest, and they had this body of water on campus that was called the Slough. So it was kind of a trademark to the school. And we started off first year 1,500 attendees, and then by the time I graduated, we were at 3,000 people. Mind you, the
Wow.
school we had 2,500 students, so it was phenomenal. And by the time we graduated, the school was sold. Like they were like, oh, we love this idea. We can get recruits to come here. We can get
Wow.
future students to come. And we sat down and was like, this is the reason why we wanted to do it. And it was like, we played sports, but we wanted to leave an impact at the end of the day.
I mean, that's really what it's all about. But that's amazing, man. Like, is it? Well, it's not going on this day, but did it continue a little bit after you graduated, or was it kind of like?
Yeah, no, it's still a living, breathing event on campus. I think um, the year after we graduated, they ended up having Quinn XCII come headline, which I actually was, I had the opportunity to just go and enjoy it as a fan. And then for the 5th-year anniversary, they had Bryce Vine,
Wow.
which was super tight. I didn't have the opportunity to go to that one because I was on tour, but it's crazy. And obviously this year they didn't get an opportunity to do it, but me and the guys that originally started the festival, we reached out and was like, hey, we want to make sure this doesn't die. How can we help? And being able to be in the music industry now full time, it was like, I have a ton of resources. Let's figure this out, regardless of like what it is, and obviously they have their budgets, but it was just like, I know people, I could be a resource, and let's try to keep this thing going. So
That's amazing, and you just don't know what it could turn into, and you've
yeah,
kept it going, and I think that's amazing. 'Cause, I mean, really, at the end of the day, I mean, it seems like you get this, but kind of the reason what I do too is you want to be able to give back. You really want to give back to your community, and pave the way for the next person that wants to create their own festival or be a tour manager or just whatever they want to get into. So I
yeah,
really
no,
love to hear that.
yeah, man. No, it's for me, it's ironically I gained the nickname Legacy through football. And
I was about to ask how did that come about, man?
uh well, it's like super simple. My dad played at the same high school. He was an all-stater, and me coming in as his son, it was like high expectations, super high. I was a great football player, but I don't think I could even touch him as a player. Football was different back in the '80s, so you know what I mean. But I kind of got that name through football, but I took it as something bigger than that, turned it into a brand, and was like, this is what I stand for. And it was all about kind of leaving an impact or a legacy. And now, everywhere I go, I try to kind of plant that seed. It's like, man, I started from a suburban school. Yeah, I had resources, but everything up until this point is like, I've had to grind, I've had to hustle, I had to fight my way to be put in rooms where, some of my peers won't ever have that opportunity. But to see me in that room, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, you learn through it all, whether it's failures or this person says no, or you just kind of have to figure it out and roll with the punches. I
Yeah.
mean, just wing it. and then, oh, something works, then it's like, okay, we have something here. And
Yep. And then
it,
you
I
gotta
mean,
keep going. You gotta keep repeating it. You know what I mean? Until it doesn't work anymore. And then it's like, all right, here we go. We gotta pivot and find that same passion and grind and hustle in whatever you're looking into.
yeah, trial by fire, man. That's what I love
Yep.
to say. Just, because I think one of the can't even speak, the biggest misconceptions about like all, everyone that kind of works in music, it's just like they know what's up and all that, but it's like, you everyone's kind of just figuring out to see what works and what doesn't. It's kind of fascinating, but also it's like, we're all human. Like, you think I know the answer, or that? Like, no, man. Like, we have an idea, and that someone thinks it's good, and we roll with it. Like,
You gotta roll with the punches, man.
yeah, that's kind of what keeps it going through, like, the ups and downs. Have you like experienced, just because, like, for anyone out there that's listening that may want to get into the music, like, I kind of want to hear you talk about like the highs and lows of it. Not, I mean, you don't have to give like specific details, but because it's a very, like, at least what I've experienced too, it's just like a very, like, I mean, it's a roller coaster. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna go through these highs. There's gonna be these lows where it's like, man, like, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
But we just find a way to keep going. So
Yeah. No, I mean, there are like tons of events in my life that up to this point that I can just pinpoint, and that it's like, man, I've been at the lowest of lows, you know what I mean? And I think even in those moments, it's kind of just like looking yourself in the mirror and being like, how bad do you want it? And some points it's just like having faith that it's gonna work itself out too, you know what I mean? And I think for me, I think the biggest thing for me that I feel like people can relate to is and it's very cliche to say, but it's so real, is really not taking no for an answer. And that there is always a way. Um, I can remember a point in time, and I can give you a couple examples, but I can remember a point in time when, let's say, that festival we were putting on, it was year two. We had just had Vic Mensa come through, and even to get that off the ground, if you look back at 2014, it was the Ferguson case was going on. A lot of racial tension was really happening and really peaking at that point. Campus was really, I wouldn't say divided, but you can definitely feel where, you know, students that were minority were looking around, being at, predominantly white college, being like, man, do I fit here? And for the group of guys I was with that put on this festival, all of us being minorities, we took it as an opportunity to step up. And because at the time Vic Mensa was so popular, our goal was to have Chance the Rapper, and it wasn't going to happen at the time in 2014. But so we were like, man, let's just go for Vic, and it was almost like an aligning thing. We had Vic on our list, and we had some students go over to Australia for like a term, and they ran into Vic at a festival and was like, hey man, we thought about having you. We really want you to come to campus. And he was like, yeah, man, you could talk to my people. We'll figure it out. Like, whatever. And during that time, we heard that, and we were like, okay, now we have to really make this happen. And we did our research. His girlfriend at the time actually went to Augustana for a
no
term.
way. Wow.
And so we're like, oh, well, we have to put this in the pitch. Like, this has to happen. As they were coming back to the States, one of the girls ran into him again at the airport and was like, yo, do you remember this conversation? Like, we really want you to come through. And he was like, oh man, of course. Like, I'm gonna, do what I have to do. Let's figure it out. And we were getting down to the nitty gritty. And luckily, our festival fell like a week after Coachella. And it was perfect. He was available, but the dean of the school was upset because at the time, it was the whole thing about film the police, and he was like
Oh,
standing up, and we were like, okay, we understand that, but this is who we're gonna go with. They were very aware of it. We ended up closing the deal, and our marketing materials were a picture of him in a film the police shirt. And it wasn't for us.
no.
For us, it wasn't like, oh man, we're trying to get back at the school, but it was just like, here's a great opportunity to, yeah, have a political statement, but not be ignorant to what's going on. Like, we wanted to kind of be very cautious of what we were doing, but also bring light to it. And we were in that meeting, and they're like, yo, you're not having the show. And we were like, okay, so what's the compromise? And as easily as that show could have gone left and not have happened, in those moments you kind of have to pick your battles and just say like, hey, you know what, we'll change the photo, whatever. And then we can fast forward to, let's say me working with Mark. There are times where it was like, I was fighting for a voice, but I'm a young dude. Like, I just graduated college, and what I may feel is, the brightest and best idea, might not necessarily work in a room full of people that have been doing it for 15, 20 years. And, you know, and you've always, coming out of college, you were the guy. You were the dude that everybody looked to have a voice and have some creative input. And just to be able to kind of swallow it and be like, you know what, my time's not here, and to take the back seat and just learn. And then if you fast forward even more to today, it's like, well, now I was Mark's right hand guy, moved my way up to from assistant to say a day-to-day or tour manager, and even having the ability to go to him and say, hey, I think this is how we should move. This is, maybe we should focus on trying to get these things done, or even bringing deals to the table. I think when you start to kind of look at it like, the world's not against you. It's just, it might not necessarily be your time, and to be able to take the passenger seat or the back seat and just take the opportunity to learn and cultivate your passion, the sky's the limit at that point, because you are, say, in rooms with people that know a lot more than you, and being able to kind of take the pride out of it.
Absolutely. Thank you. For sharing those stories. That's
Yeah.
very insightful. And, honestly, this show is more out of my own curiosity, if anything. So that's crazy. I didn't know that you did a show with Vic around all that, controversial stuff. So, that's kudos for pulling that off. I never would have known. But I think we, sometimes you just got to take a backseat though, and learn and kind of show like prove your worth, I guess. It's like, okay, show them that you work hard and you're about it, and then that you kind of
Yeah.
gain the trust after you've shown them, and then you kind of work your way up and
Yeah, no,
get
and
that,
I
because
think,
that's a huge part of music, is
yeah,
trust.
exactly, and that's what I was about to get into. Is like a lot of times when I talk to individuals that want to get in the industry, and they're like, man, I just don't know how. It's like, I tell them, what can you bring to the table? That's the only thing anybody ever really cares about. Anybody could say they can, work hard or this, that, and the third, but it's like, if you can bring value to the table and say, this is what I can contribute day one, a lot of times people will listen. And especially if you're very persistent about it, you know, to them, you may feel like you're being annoying, but everybody wants to be in this industry, regardless if it's music, regardless if it's sports, regardless if it's film. Entertainment is probably the most sought out industry out there because it's unorthodox. We get to, from the outside looking in, live this such of a lavish lifestyle, which in complete honesty is not.
No, it's
It's a
not
lot
at
of
all.
work. It's a lot of work, but you know, if you can come in and say, "Hey, I can do whatever you need me to do," and kind of just be humble about it and provide something, 9 times out of 10, somebody's gonna listen. If it's not the first person, it might be the fifth person. Just don't give up on it. Just
Absolutely. It's just kind of even proving that loyalty. Because like anyone could say they can work hard, but like, are they really gonna, put in those overnight drives or whatever, whatever the case may be that as a mentor of mine always tells me, like, you got to be willing to do what other people don't want to do to like
yeah,
reach
of
that
course,
point.
of
And
course.
and that kind of that goes transitions into my next question though about like you and your relationship with Mark. How like so you booked him as a headliner for the third year of the festival. How like how did like the working relationship start? I guess because you work with him to this day. You've worked with him in the past on tour. Was it more of he saw like, okay, these guys are about it, or it was more of like you're graduating and it was like I'm figuring out what I'm want to do next? What do you? I don't know. I'm just curious, and I'm sure listeners out there are curious, like how you worked with.
Yeah, so it's a funny
Yeah.
story almost. To some people, they might find it interesting, but so we do that show, right?
Right.
And Mark's the headliner, and we go pick him up from the hotel. And I'm on text with his manager, and we're sitting outside the hotel, and they're like dragging. And he hits me. He's like, "Yo, Mark's not feeling well." And I'm just like, "Oh no, this can't happen right now." But he was like, "Yeah, he's still gonna do the show. It's just gonna take him a minute." And I was like, "Cool, don't even worry about it. We have everything already set up. We can, you have this amount of time before he's technically supposed to be on. In a show, you have that turnover time, 15, 20 minutes. But for us, we set our turnover time for the headliner 20-25 minutes, which is naturally a little longer than normal, right? We had a DJ on before, and so I was like, "Yo, you got some time. Don't even trip. We got everything taken care of for you." And they come down, they do the show, and they get there. Everything is already plugged in. Crowd is jumping, and they walk up and do the show. Mark kills it, kills it. You would have never even thought he was like sick.
Wow.
And we get off stage, and I ask him, I'm like, "Yo, we have this meet and greet, but I know he's not feeling well. Like, is he down to do it?" And he was like, "No, let's do it. Like, he's down to do whatever for the fans." So we made sure he had like ginger ale and tea and everything. Obviously he had his rider or whatever, but we do the meet and greet, and the whole time I'm talking to his manager, who now I work with, and he's like, "Man, you guys are so tight. Like, we've never done a college show, and it's been this on point." And I was just like, "Man, this is like 3 years in the making. We take a lot of pride into this, and I'm glad that the show went well without a hitch." And he's like, "Have you ever thought about going into the music business?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been applying. I graduate this year." And he was like, "Cool, let's just stay in touch." I didn't hear from these dudes for months after that show, and And so I went on, I graduated, I was applying for every music industry job, like every label, every publishing company, every management, and was getting denied everywhere. So I was like, "Man, I'm gonna do sports." Apply for every like team I liked. So I was applying for the Bears, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, and I was just striking out everywhere. And at the time, because of this festival, I had already built a relationship with C3, who's the event promoters for like Lollapalooza and stuff.
Mhm.
And I had been already working with them since my sophomore year. And so I had done those festivals during the summer. And because of that, I had built relationships and was able to go work a ton of other festivals, some rock, some EDM. And it was towards the end of festival season, like the end of like Well, we had one that was in the fall. It was like around early October, and it was our last day there, or last show day there, and we were getting ready to load out, and I receive a call, and they're like, "Hey, this is such and such. We wanted to see if you were still interested in working for us." I'm like, "Yeah, like, you know, festival season's about to be over with. I don't know what I'm gonna do for the rest of the year." And there's like, "Cool, we'll send you over, the job description, whatever." I don't even think I actually read the job description. I like hung up that call and was like, "Yo,
I'm
I'm
in.
about to go work with him. Like, let me finish up this last little week here, on site." And even after that, I didn't hear from him for like a couple of weeks. And I think it was like, I think I received a call probably like at October 8th, right? And it was midnight. I'm sleeping on my dad's couch. And I receive a call and he's like, "Yo, you ready to come to LA?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, what's up? I'm down. Let's do it." There's like, "Find the first flight out." So I found it, and mind you, it's midnight. I
Wow.
found a 6 a.m. flight. Woke my dad up like, "Yo, Dad, I'm going to LA. I just got the job." And he was like, "All right, cool." Took me to the airport and literally went out to LA. And from that point on, the first day there, I was on set of his video, Cool. It's um, Felix. He was like a German producer, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering where he comes from, but I believe he was like a German producer, and he had Mark and Gucci Man on it, and literally went from the airport to on set of the music video, and started working that day.
Wow.
Didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, "Yo, I'm here. What you need me to do? You need water? You need a towel? What you need me to do?" And kind of just started from there. And uh, really started off as the just a roaming assistant. I helped his managers out with emails, documents, set in on a lot of calls and stuff, but and was out there just thugging it. I bounced around from his manager's crib, stayed at Mark's crib for a couple months, and and I was able to kind of really just be present in that moment. And a lot of the times it was like I was going to studio sessions. We would leave at like noon. We wouldn't even get home until like 8 a.m. the next day, and was able to just really kind of build a really good foundation, a working foundation, which ended up turning into a brotherhood, today. Um, but yeah, and to even kind of go back to what we talked about before, it was kind of just like proving myself, being able to just be present. So I got out there on that say October 8th, the 11th, we were getting ready to go on tour.
Wow.
Never had done merch a day in my life, and they're like, "Yo, you think you can do merch and just sell some t-shirts?" I'm like, "Bro, whatever you need me to do, let me just figure it out." Like, and I think at that time the tour was the BB Rexa tour. It was Marc and BB Rexa, and they were co-headlining. And this is the first time I'm like around like megastars. Like
Yeah.
at that time, I think BB Rexa was considered a megastar, and I'm just like not really in awe because I've been around musicians before, but it was just like, "Oh, this is how you really do do everything." And I'm just in there asking a million questions, just trying to learn. And we did the tour, and then from that tour it was like, okay, now, you know let's do some college shows. So I'm flying all over the country doing college shows. Probably halfway through that year, it was like, "All right, cool, you've done enough of these, it's your turn." And I just started to travel and do college shows by myself. I learned everything about his production. I was setting up his stage, um, and basically tour managing him, at least on the college level, um, for him. And because of that, it in turn allowed me to do bigger tours and was able to tour manage for him. And then from there, it was like, all right, cool. Let's the production value of his shows kind of grew a lot bigger. And we did the Bellion tour, which was like an amphitheater tour, and it was like, all right, cool. We're gonna bring in somebody, and because I didn't have that experience, I was more so like, oh yeah, we're on opening tours. There's not really much for you to do as an opener. You kind of advance everything, but outside of that, that's really it. And then obviously doing the college shows. But once they brought in the tour manager, I kind of built that relationship with her, and I was like, the assistant TM to her and kind of just learning the ropes. But I went back to the team and was like, hey, I know a lot about the operation. Like, can I kind of move into a management role? And so they were kind of open to it, and it kind of just skyrocketed from there. And so for the last 2 years, it's been kind of just growing as a manager, and trying to bring in different opportunities, but also helping be a part of the creative process in a different way, more so than just being in the back seat.
Wow, that's man. I love your story about how that event turned into like this working relationship and how you really proved your value. That's terrific, man. And it makes me so happy to hear that you're still working together. Well, you said brotherhood, so I
Yeah.
know you guys are still, when people say that, it's more like, okay, this is like more than music, but obviously we still work together. Like,
Oh yeah,
so
no, for
that's
me, it's like, when I am with him, it's like business. But, there are times like I'll just go to his crib and just chill, watch the game, and it's like, man, I'm chilling with my homie, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And
definitely.
so yeah, no, it's been cool. And for me, it's kind of amazing because I I don't know if I ever told them this, but I wasn't traditionally a fan of Mark. I didn't know who he was. And a girl I was dating at the time was like, "Yo, you should listen to this dude," because we were looking for a headliner. We were striking out on every headliner we wanted. We wanted Made in Tokyo at first. He had came out with a project at that time. He was like, "Yeah, I can't do it." We wanted Kyle, but I Spy came out at that
Oh
time,
man,
and he was like, "Man, I can't do it." And so we were just struggling. And the girl at the time was like, "Yo, you should listen to this dude." And I think we were on winter break, and I took a listen, and I was like, "Man, this dude's so talented." And to go from being a fan to now being his homie, and kind of like helping grow his career in a sense, with his team, it's like, oh man, this is so dope. So
man, yeah, it's incredible. I mean, he's a very talented artist. You guys are definitely doing a great job, and that's just so cool, man. Shout out to you and your team. That's great. Keep great work. Keep up the great work. Um, on a touring side, I'm kind of just curious, what was it like on your first like amphitheater run? Like, what were your thoughts? Because I did an amphitheater run last summer, and it was like going from like small clubs and venues, bars, or whatever, to like that. It was like, holy shit! Like, there's like the headliners loading in at 8 a.m. Like, it's just a different. Like, it was
it,
like, okay, I thought I knew what's up, but no, this is completely different. So
yeah, no, that tour was insane. Now, mind you, I didn't ever really go to concerts growing up. I was a sports dude, so most of my time was working out, practices, camps, combines, all that stuff. So my only concert growing up was a festival that Northwestern held for their students because I lived down the street from the college. But when we got I think it was like the first day we got there, and it was like, oh, load in at 7 a.m. Cool. And we get there, and you walk out on that stage, and you're just like, man, it's a lot of seats in here. And shout out to Bellion and his team, because I don't think on that tour, and that tour was like 2.5 months, like 50 some shows. I don't think that tour there was ever a show that seats weren't filled. I don't know if it was sold out, but from the look of it, I think every seat was filled. And once we got to like the point of um like when Mark was going on and you just really like looked out, I was just like amazed. I was like, there's no way all these people know this. And once the show gets going, you're like in a vibe, you know, like whatever. But at points, it's just like kids crying, kids screaming every word to a lyric. And it was like, wow, you know, this is really why we do music. Um, and I always tell everybody like music's a universal language, and you can see every walk of life in that building and every show, and they're all there feeling the same thing and everything. And it was just like it was really beautiful to see. But yeah, no, that was life changing. You know, I never thought in a million years that I would be put in those type of situations.
Absolutely. It's kind of, I mean, just from my perspective too, it's like, and it seems like from, the way you grew up, like, well, the music industry, it's not like a job you just like fall into. It's more of like, well, okay, I take it back. Like, you like fall. It's not like you don't seem like were about this, or like I wasn't like I want to tour and manage and all that. Like when you don't think that when you're little and playing sports
Yeah,
growing up, but like it kind of things. It's just funny how the way life aligns, because someone like yourself and a lot of other peers that I know, that we probably both know, they kind of just fell into it too. It's like it was kind of like, well, shit, I want to do this. Like, all right,
yeah,
let's do it. So I think it's really cool just to hear different stories like that. So
yeah. No,
um,
it's crazy. I think my one of my biggest moments, even though I didn't do a single thing but get Mark to the show, um, was being in Madison Square Garden with
oh wow.
Mark and G-Eazy. But this was like the first time when I was like in a room and I'm looking around and I'm like, wow. Like 1 second Cardi B's walking by, and then the next second, Sabrina Claudio's walking by, and it's just like, why? Like, what did I deserve to be in this room right now? And it was like, and it was really crazy. I honestly think like once Mark got on stage and I texted my mom because I sent her a video and I was like, Mom, I'm in Madison Square Garden right now. Like you cannot, like there's no words to be put towards it. I have videos, but like even that sold out show for it was like the Jingle Ball for iHeartRadio. So it's like, all the biggest artists that year were in the room and then thousands of fans just there singing along. And it was like, this is unbelievable, and for me it was like, cool, I'm absorbing this, I'm being in the moment. But then the moment I walked away, it was like, oh, this is what I'm working towards. This is what I want to see for Mark. What I want to see for any client that I work for is to be standing in Madison Square Garden at a sold out show and everybody's singing the words. And I'm still striving for that today, to this day.
That's amazing. I mean, that's definitely, to do a show, that's definitely on my like career bucket list at least. And um, one day I think I'll get there, but obviously
Oh,
with state
for
of the world,
sure.
it's, I mean, well, it's a bummer. I mean, I had, I mean, I'm not going to talk about what I was going to do, but like I had a good looking year planned for this year until everything got canceled. So there was a good chance that was going to happen this fall, and it's a bummer, but I'm a very optimistic person. And so we will
Yeah.
see what happens in the future. And, I think it's all about adapting and figuring out how you can provide value and just keep moving forward. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
really,
think I think it's gonna be, if the music industry can like hold itself together to the point when shows are gonna come out, I think a lot of people that work behind the scenes are going to see things that like they could never even imagine before. I
Okay.
think they're going to be so many shows and artists that have never sold out like full tours are going to sell them out. It's literally going to be like record breaking, and it's going to be insane. And I wish everyone the best when that day
I'm
comes.
yeah, I'm staying patient, and I've picked, in the meantime, picked up a filler job, and it is what it is, and
Yeah.
I don't hate it, but it's kind of like hard. A lot of my coworkers don't know what I've experienced and stuff, so it's kind of just like, yeah, like for sure, yeah, in 2 years down the line, yeah, for sure, it's like I probably won't be there.
Hey, trust me. I've been in that same
Yeah,
situation, man. Like, you know, there are times where I was like, shit, I couldn't even pay my rent, and now they're telling me like you got 3 days before you're out. And I live in LA. LA is not the I don't want to say cheapest because it's far from cheap, but it's not even the reasonable like most reasonable place financially. Um, but yeah, no, I found myself in those situations, and even now with everything that was going on, I had to step away from the Bassy camp and be like, yo, I need some type of stability. Like we aren't doing shows, the money isn't coming in as frequently, and for me, it was just like that was the best decision for myself, but also as a team because it was like I'm not gonna sit here and you know say like, oh man, I need money when I can see the books and be like, everybody was going through a tough time. You know what I'm saying? And I thank God I'm still able to be in the music industry and still be in some form of management. Um, but yeah, no, this whole thing really shook up the world, and people really had to start really thinking about how we operate as a society. Um, but there will be, and it's coming, a day when you know everyone can kind of get back to what they were doing and loving to do. Um, and it's all about having faith and kind of sticking it out.
I completely agree, and I mean, kind of what you said earlier, just like there'll probably be more shows than there are people behind the scenes to work them, so it's going to be
Yeah.
very interesting to say the least. But like I said, if we get hold it together for the next 6 months to a year or so, we'll be in great shape. But yeah, man, this is kind of the part of where I let the guests talk about their future plans, or if they have any closing thoughts. It's the floor is yours. I definitely always appreciate someone like yourself coming on.
Yeah.
And it's one thing I'm trying to work on with the show is like, because I have so many people that I want to just hit up and be like, hey, come on. But it's like, I think, well, you're going to be the first episode of the new year, so it's like it's going to
Oh,
be great.
man, that'd be dope.
Yeah, it's coming the first Tuesday of 2021, so it's going to be cool. But well, going back to my point, it's just like I've been, this is going to be episode 16, I think, and it's like, damn, like they're dope. I want to have them on, but it's like, am I ready for it? But it's one of my goals is to like not think about it so much. Like it's just a conversation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I really appreciate you for taking the time so close to the holidays and um just being a great guy that you are. This was a really cool episode. I'm sure everyone got a lot of value out of it. But yeah, if any closing thoughts that you have, anything you want to plug, anything you want to say, this is like your time. You can plug up all your Instagrams and all that if you want, or you can just say, hey, like have a happy, whatever you do, man.
Yeah. No, I want to start by saying, thank you for having me, come on. We've had um a working friendship for a while now. And we really haven't had the opportunity to fully connect yet, but it's
I
coming.
forgot about that, man. Damn.
It's coming. It's coming. But no, I really appreciate you, you know what I mean? Because there are people out there that don't really know how to go about it or even have access to people that are in positions that they want to be in. So, I commend you for starting this, being an entrepreneur and a self-starter to just go out and keep that passion alive. But what's my future look like? Man, it's hard to say. I try to dabble in a lot, because I'm a creative in an unorthodox sense. I don't really make music like that anymore, but I found ways to kind of keep that alive. I've dabbled back into writing, so I've helped write a couple records with a client or two, and just trying to build different avenues. I have a startup company I'm trying to build on my own, called Good Advice, where we kind of help on the project management side for upcoming artists that don't really know how to handle that, and also want to kind of take their career to another level. So we do that. We also manage too, but our focus is a lot on project management. But I just continue to just want to do more, be as involved as possible as I can. We have a podcast kind of within our company that does the similar thing, is where we bring in individuals that are doing very well to in our eyes, in those industries, and kind of bring light to them to kind of help those individuals that don't really have access to those individuals as well. So we've had people in the sport world, people in music, and it kind of hit like a plateau because of COVID and everything. But hopefully we can bring that back in the new year. But yeah, man, I'm very excited for what the new year holds, because it's unknown, but it's also in my hands to make everything happen. So who knows? We'll see. And you know,
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm excited for you. I'm glad that you're just keeping it going and figuring it out like everyone else. It's all we can do. But again, man, I really appreciate you. Everyone, if you want to give him a follow or hit him up with a question or just whatever, he's on Instagram. Don't know the exact app, but Justin Legacy Bishop is his name. If you search it
yeah,
up, I'm sure
at
it's gonna
Legacy Bishop,
Legacy Bishop. Okay, there we go.
literally on every social media, except TikTok. I'm holding off. I'm really trying to do it, but yeah, at Legacy Bishop, feel free. I'll always answer, even if it takes a while. I'll always answer. So if you have any questions or advice or anything, feel free.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again, Justin. I appreciate you, and we'll definitely stay in touch and chat soon.
Cool, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.